Let's explore whether meditation could heal painful insights. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit, which reads, "Don't know what to do with information that's come to light through meditation." Pardon me, gotta turn off an alarm before my head explodes. That'll do it. Okay. Don't know what to do with information that's come to light through meditation. Oh, wait a second. Someone wrote me a question about afterlife. I should write myself a note so I don't forget that real quick, because I already forgot today, so please bear with me a moment. Let's see here. Today is the 11th. Tomorrow is the 12th. Let's hit Buddhist afterlife. Okay, thank you for indulging me. Don't know what to do with information that's come to light through meditation. Our good-hearted person wrote, So lately I've been meditating a lot, almost an hour for the past 2 to 3 months. One significant aspect that's come to light for me when I went deeper into why some people in my life are triggering me. So what I'm going to do is read through it once. And there's certain words I've highlighted in red to remind me to speak on it. And I've written some notes later on to go over it. And I'm calling this the broad brushstrokes. So it's not, I don't like being preyed upon by piranha-like internet trolls. So it's not my job to do that. If you're writing and you're in pain, I don't want to make you feel worse. But I want to help you to sidestep unnecessary landmines on the path of enlightenment. And one of them is the active path. The Buddha led by example and showed us the passive path. When we actively try to get an answer, to seek an answer, to get a question answered, we are traversing down a treacherous road. And so it's healthier to passively meditate and notice what insights come to us. Now, just based on this wording alone, it's ambiguous. I'm not sure what was going on, but I feel it's important that I mention it. I once had an acquaintance, the late Reverend Allen. One day he entered the living room and found his wife screaming at a cat who was hiding under the sofa. And she was trying to motivate the cat to leave its hiding place by poking at it with a broomstick. So he sat her down on a neighboring love seat and melodramatically traipsed his way into the kitchen, noisily opened a can of tuna. Neither the sound of the can of the tuna opening nor the scent of the tuna released escaped the awareness of the kitty cat, who promptly left its hiding place and strode imperiously into the kitchen for its aquatic treat. And I found insights are a lot like a cat. We can chase after them with a broomstick. Or we can set space and allow them to come to us in their time and in their manner of choosing. So the author continues. One significant aspect that's come to light for me when I went deeper into why some people in my life are triggering me is that I've always felt unloved, undervalued, and little. Sadly, I can relate. As I meditate more, I can feel my resentment towards myself too, where I let myself feel all the above three things or let people treat me like that. So allow me to remind you that we select our emotions at our peril. The Buddha's path is not one of choosing, picking and choosing, but of allowing. Forgive the old saw, but I really do like it. Whatever comes, we let it come. Whatever stays, we let it stay. Whatever goes, we let it go. For the path of the Buddha is not one of getting what we want when we want it for as long as we want it, but it's the path of making peace with whatever befalls us. Similarly, just as it is dangerous to try to pick and choose our emotions, likewise, it never ends well. Let me rephrase that. Us trying to control others' behavior always ends badly. So if this is literal, controlling others' behavior always ends in tears. Now, if this is metaphoric, there is a way to stand up for ourselves while still traversing the path of peace. And that way is to allow our choices and our utterances and our deeds to flow from the zone. And we'll explore more of that in a few minutes. Let's continue. But I do not know what to do next with this information. I know I have to, or I should, I know I've to love myself, value myself, and treat myself right to make up for my lack of love towards me. So this is an oft-used phrase, self-love. Now, of course, there's the self-love, which is a euphemism for the pastime we discover in junior high, wink, wink. But we're already wired for self-preservation. If we use mindfulness and meditation correctly to step out of our own way, we will be able to do that which is best for our body and our mind. We don't have to come from a place of self-friendship. We are already wired by natural selection to have empathy for real or imagined entities, all of them. Whether we read about them in a novel, see them on the television, watch them on the news, or encounter them when we go for a walk in our neighborhood. We are already wired for empathy. We're already wired for kindness. So we do not have to force ourselves to be kind. What we do need to do is practice mindfulness and meditation in such a way that helps us to access the centered spontaneity, which will help us to make the right decisions for not only ourselves, but for everybody else in our life in the right way at the right time. It does not have to be contrived. It can happen spontaneously, like a sneeze. But then how do I reduce my anger towards myself? I'm literally infuriated at myself, and I can see it projecting outside. We will explore that in a few minutes. I will come back to that, I assure you. Note that I'm observing myself projecting it and not behaving angrily with people, just keeping calm. Or in in the reference to the Eddie Murphy movie Bowfinger, just keeping it together. Has anyone faced their demons through meditation? And how do you calm them down or manage life around that? So yes, if ever you peruse some of my older live streams, you'll see times when I'm meditating and there are tears rolling down my face. It is an inevitability. Let me rephrase this. Every time we inhale, we automatically access our sympathetic nervous system. I'm getting ahead of myself, so we'll get back to this in a few minutes. We will get back to this. So, as promised, let us continue with broad brushstrokes. Beware of why, for it is a gateway to story. Contrary to popular belief, we cannot believe our way to enlightenment, no less peace. Belief is a rigidity of intellect and emotion, and it creates more harm than good. Therefore, it's beneficial for us to sidestep belief and not to grasp tightly the story. Story might be accurate and may be inaccurate. We're wired, after all, to confabulate. So when meditating, instead of asking why, ask what. And instead of asking anything, just notice what comes up automatically. Every one of us who's ever had a splinter has had it eventually work its way out. I was told that's called festering. Same thing with our past. We don't have to actively search for past traumas. In fact, it works better if we don't. As I mentioned, it's not our job to select our emotions, nor our job to control others' behavior. Let us explore the yin and yang of it all. We do not wish to traverse the path of being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, or cruel. Specifically, we do not wish to be rigid, nor do we wish to be controlling. Far better it is to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, especially flexible and laid back. The Buddha's path is one of flexibility and ease. So, I'd like to conclude with a strategy for self-love and a strategy from living from the flow state. We'll begin with love. Consider, if you will, let's begin with mindfulness. On the right-hand side of the page, we see a little teeny tiny diagram of the sympathetic nervous system. The diagram's not perfect, but it's the best I could find. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access the sympathetic nervous system. No, it is not found within the 3-pound supercomputer between our ears. Instead, it is ensconced within the ribcage or thoracic region of our spinal cord. No, our sympathetic nervous system has not evolved to indulge either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Well then, what has this silly thing evolved to do? It has evolved to help us notice, and to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. This vulnerability is typified, or we experience vulnerability quite often when we're naked. Especially, sometimes men know what this is like. You're at the doctor's office. The doctor's wearing his clothes, and your wife's wearing her clothes, and you're just butt naked on a zebra. Or butt naked on an exam table. And you can feel kind of, vulnerable in that circumstance, which is probably why in this piece of tantric art, both the male and the female are depicted as naked to remind us of the crucial role vulnerability plays upon the path of mindfulness. And so in our vulnerable perception, we could notice. We could notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could also notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can notice the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. What are we to do with that which we notice? That brings us to the topic of meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we mean to or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system here on the left of the page. Our parasympathetic nervous system is ensconced within both the lower lumbar region as well as the brainstem. It is evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. And it's accessed involuntarily every time we exhale. So, the next time you experience, let's look at it this way. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever painful experience you might have recalled during our previous inhalation could feel less imposing. Now, since all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, come let us sprinkle some figurative language into this equation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever painful memories we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Any English teacher can remind you that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. So, belief is not some static, permanent state we rigidly believe in. As we breathe in, we experience fleeting perceptions. As we exhale, those perceptions diminish. And just as we have more than one inhalation and one exhalation in life, we're constantly dancing between the extremes of noticing and releasing. Sometimes a release is jarring. Sometimes it's remarkably subtle. What we feel or don't feel is neither an indictment nor an acquittal. But didn't I promise you the key to self-love? Well, here it is. We're going to explore it through the paradigm of bad news and good news, beginning with bad news. Every time we rely upon our medial prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, every time we rely upon our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, it is my understanding that fMRI studies demonstrate when we do that, our blood collects right around here. This nodule is known as the amygdala. It's located at the bottom part of our limbic system, and it functions as the seat of both our anxiety and our aggression. How ironic that when we choose active concentration, active contemplation to take us to peace, we get one hell of a detour. But now for the good news. When we replace active concentration with a passive mindfulness that comes from accessing our sympathetic nervous system during our inhalation, and when we replace active contemplation with a passive meditation of relaxation and release that is experienced automatically during our exhalation, then our blood mass shifts from our amygdala to this pink thing that looks like a catcher's mitt. Oh, sure, the cool kids call it the anterior cingulate gyrus. We can call it the catcher's mitt of love, because it functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, and compassion and love. This is why the greatest Dzogchen lamas of India and Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. This is why the archetype known as Samantabhadra, Samantabhadri, Karma Mudra is always as depicted as beautiful as the artist is capable of generating. Not all artists are created equal. Now, the second thing I promised you was going with the flow, how to make that happen. We return to the same idea of the same couple, but with a different image. Consider, if you will, this gal who is the color of a fluffy cumulus cloud. Observe how she appears to be actively sporting in tantric union. This reminds us that contrivance will always be trumped by spontaneity. Please consider now her consort, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that not all spontaneity is created equal. And it also reminds us that the scattered spontaneity that we can access in many ways, such as, having 3 espressos within 30 minutes, that scattered spontaneity will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity that is the effortless byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. And now it gets exciting. For when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, our life can become as blissful as a paradise or a pure land or a vati of a real or imagined or archetypical Buddha. So the key to allowing this to happen is to have a twice daily practice of mindfulness and meditation. Once every 12 hours or so could do the trick. You could begin with 5 minutes every 12 hours. The first week, bumped it up to 10 minutes every 12 hours. The second week, bumped it up to 15 minutes every 12 hours. The third week, and so forth, and so on, until by the conclusion of the 15th week, you are absolutely styling. You'll be able to sit comfortably in a meditation posture for a 15-minute lesson and a 60-minute practice. And because you've progressed gradually, it will reduce the stress to your body and your schedule and your sweetheart and your kids and your pets and your job. I look forward to exploring the fine details with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. L'chaim. All right, let's begin with the figurative practice, or I should say with the practice of the figurative rainbow body. And of course, this is the perfect month for that, is it not? Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with the bodies of visualization, emotion, magic, and belief. Let's try that. Okay, let's continue. We can just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for literal statements and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. All momento. Okay, here we go. All circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. Whoops, let's hit the right button in the right sequence. That makes life work so much better. So we're taking all these words and shrinking it down to just 6 syllables. During the in-breath, we could silently and mentally recite into form. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite all lots melt. I would like to do this for 4 rounds, assuming a round is simply 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. And I'm going to count this upon my left little finger and by advancing the tip of my left thumb during each inhalation. And so one of the great ironies of this exercise of playing with the notion that all circumstances could simply melt into this body is it's harnessing our innate self-centeredness and helping us to use its momentum to transcend it, which is deliciously ironic. Having performed this passive contemplation, for the next 12 or so rounds, let us play with this. Let us, during our inhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the 1-syllable verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. Now, let us not be so foolish as to assume you will master Bengali crease counting the first time you practice it. Please give yourself permission to have a learning curve, whether that learning curve be an hour or a week or a fortnight. And of course, although you saw me hold my hand before the camera, it's most ergonomically sustainable to simply rest your hands in your lap. Let's continue. This is what I'm looking for. Quick like a bunny. I'm going to hit copy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go over here and hit paste. Thank you for indulging my editing. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech. Now, one thing I find amusing is that the word impermanent is bold, as is the verb melt, and that the adjective interdependent is underlined, as is the verb absorb. For the next 12 or so rounds, let us practice spontaneous awareness and letting go. All interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. So for one set of approximately 12 rounds, let us, during our inhalation, let us kick back and simply watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. During our and all this while silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb ease. Now, let us count 4 sets of 16 rounds with which to practice additional spontaneous awareness and letting go. So on the left hand, I'm continuing to count rounds. On the right hand, I'm counting sets. Now that we have climbed to contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo. We continue now with the central channel yogas of bliss and letting go. Quick edit. And here we go. Cut. And paste. Let's try that again. During our inhalation, regardless of our gender, we can refer to the area below our navel or south of our navel as womb. And during our exhalation, we can persist in physically relaxing and mentally releasing. And now let us rest in this ease. On second thought, let's continue with this. Let's continue with green ease for obvious reasons. And wind here is a metaphor. The wind element is a metaphor for that which is dynamic. And of course, this is all invoked with the seed syllable or bija mantra. Ah. And now let us rest with spontaneous awareness and letting go. We continue now with Ratnasambhava's joy and letting go. We invoke the area behind our navel with the monosyllabic noun gut. We invoke the same region with the color of gold. The Iron Age notion of the earth element is a wonderful metaphor of stability. All the above can be invoked with the one-syllable mantra, or seed mantra, known as Bija Tram. And now let us relax. Now let us watch the play of mind and relax into its nature. That's odd. Let's try that again. Let us continue with Akshobhya's great joy and letting go. Continue. So, we turn our attention now to our heart. We now invoke the color blue. as well as the water element's moisture. And our bija, our seed, is the syllable hung. Let us watch the play of mind and relax into its non-graspable nature. Let us continue with Amitabha's, oopsie, wrong button. Let us continue with Amitabha's very great joy and letting go. We begin with the region of the throat that we feel constrict when we are on the verge of tears. We continue with the color red. And the fire element's warmth. And finally, the seed or bija syllable free. Again, let us watch the play of mind and relax into its non-graspable nature. We continue with Varochana's exceedingly great joy and letting go. That's bizarro. Let us begin with invoking the crown of our head. Let us invoke the color white. The space element. Or the Bija seed Om. Please bear with me. Copy. And paste. Okay, thank you very much for hearing my mad edit. Let us continue now. Let us just rest our mind on Om and ease. Let's do so for 3 sets of 16 rounds. Let us, during our inhalation, as we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, let us watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. And during our exhalation, as silently and mentally we recite the verb ease, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Let us do this for 4 sets of 16 rounds. Let us see this evening's practice with love and letting go. Or in other words, by bringing the four bases of mindfulness to the practice of love and letting go. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully wise as the mind of a real Lord. Imagine Buddha symbolized by a tickle unsettlable seed or bija mantra. May all relationships or speech of all beings know be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by the 12 syllable mantra. May all bodies or forms of all beings know enjoy the beautiful health seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yatama archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo. May all circumstances or loss of all beings know how the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or vati. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. Oopsie. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.